As a child, I could probably ride before I could walk. I was brought up with ponies. My father was a great rider, my grandfather was.
The royal family has traditionally been associated with quiet, controlled appearances, edited words, and the underlying rule that some realities should never be expressed aloud. But occasionally, the hush is broken, not by the throne or the palace, but by the most unexpected voice of all. This time, it wasn't a tabloid leak, rebellious memoir, or shocking interview. It originated from a youngster, not just any child, but the daughter of the future queen, Princess Diana's granddaughter, a girl born into history who is now influencing it with only 7 words. Camilla never liked my mum. When Princess Charlotte purportedly spoke those words, they exploded rather than echoed. Whispers became headlines, news became arguments, and the world soon found itself watching Buckingham Palace with bated breath. Was this an unintentional slip by an inquisitive young royal, or is it a terrible reality passed down behind closed doors, expressed now because no one else would dare? According to sources, the comment was made during a peaceful school visit that Charlotte attended with other students from her class, unknowing that her casual remark would end up in royal history books. It may have gone unnoticed if not overheard by a journalist. The moment, however modest, took on a life of its own. Suddenly, everything the royal family had concealed for decades resurfaced. Why would a youngster say that? Where did she hear this? More importantly, why did no one refute it? Behind those 7 words is a generational divide, dating back to the vicious love triangle that shattered the monarchy: Charles, Camilla, and Diana. That schism may have been covered up with titles and ceremonies, but Diana's absence continued to throw a long, unbreakable shadow, particularly on the life of her only grandchild. And now the granddaughter has spoken. The palace has been tight-lipped. However, beyond the velvet curtains, sources report a storm. Kate was surprised and outraged. William is forced to confront truths he has kept hidden for his children's benefit. Camilla was exposed in ways she never expected, because for the first time, the next generation of royals isn't following the rules. They are telling the truth, even if it hurts, even when it challenges the crown. This is more than simply a child's comment. It's a story of legacy, love, quiet, and the moment when one tiny girl's voice burst through it all, and nothing about the royal family will be the same again. It began as a conventional outing, a typical school function, away from the turmoil of royal gates and flashing cameras. Princess Charlotte was representing her class during a young charity tour to an arts and history exhibition, which was funded by the Royal Foundation. Nothing about the day suggested a scandal. Nothing indicated an event that would make worldwide news. However, by the time Charlotte got home, the monarchy had already begun to prepare for the aftermath. According to various insider sources, the now infamous statement was made softly, off script, and in front of a BBC affiliate who was collecting background audio for a program about royal youth outreach. While admiring a framed photograph of Princess Diana on the gallery's wall, Charlotte turned to a staff member and casually commented, "Camilla never liked my mother." In fact, sources suggest she stated it with the naive assurance of a toddler repeating something she knew was true, because it was at home. The room became motionless, a startled quiet. The close royal aides, journalists, and staffers stopped in place, wondering whether they had heard what they believed they had. One assistant moved in closer, maybe dismissing it as a misunderstanding. Unfortunately, it was too late. The microphone, which was still on, had captured it. Within hours, the footage worked its way up the chain, first to producers, then to royal handlers, and last to editors, who were well aware of what they had seen. By the next morning, the line had spread on social media thanks to an anonymous leak. Royal observers instantly realized its significance. "Charlotte just said what millions have believed for years," a previous post stated. "Even the children see the truth," another said. Hashtags including #Diana's Legacy, #Charlotte Speaks and #Camilla Exposed was viral within hours. The palace declined to respond, saying no response to private family matters, which stoked the fire even more. The source of the comments startled the public as much as the substance. For years, Camilla's detractors had spoken out publicly. Journalists, writers, and Diana herself in her eerie 1995 Panorama interview. But Charlotte was different. She wasn't an unhappy royal spouse or a biographer searching for a publishing contract. She was William and Kate's treasured daughter. She was the innocent connection between the monarchy's terrible history and its bright future. And her words had weight. What made the statement so stunning was the notion that Camilla's dislike for Diana was more than just a public theory. It had become family knowledge, bedtime stories, whispered chats, or even the silent sorrow of a mother guarding her children from royal politics, or how it is passed along, rather than tabloids. Charlotte's statements did not seem scripted. They felt genuine. That's what scared the palace the most. Insiders acted rapidly to limit the harm. Some counselors speculated that the youngster had been confused, while others rushed to remove the original tape from corporate systems. However, once released, the audio could not be unleaked. Within 48 hours, millions had heard it. Analysts on television discussed its significance. Was that just a random comment, a coached moment? Or was this a hint that the whale's children were growing emotionally aware of the conflict between their family and the lady who had controversially taken the title of queen? Meanwhile, the public expressed sympathy for Charlotte. Many recognized her as a youngster who, like her grandma, was brave to speak what others would not. Princess Diana once broke royal silence for the sake of truth. Now her granddaughter was doing the same thing. Kate allegedly felt panicked at the time. She had fought valiantly to keep her children safe from the toxins of royal politics. But even she saw that Charlotte's comments were more than a slip. They were the product of years of hidden facts emerging in the most unexpected way. Behind the royal doors, the anxiety was palpable. William had been silent. Camilla was reported to be outraged. Charles, divided between the throne and his second bride, maintained a distinctive distance. But outside, the populace had made up its mind. A child's voice had expressed what the monarchy refused to acknowledge. Everything changed after that. Princess Diana's sad death occurred over 3 decades ago, but her presence has not faded. Rather, it has gotten louder, not in formal speeches or royal paintings, but in people's hearts, humble tributes, and most importantly, in the lives of her grandchildren, especially one, Princess Charlotte. Though they never met, Charlotte's emotional link with the grandma she never knew is undeniable. And, following Charlotte's now famous whisper, the world was reminded of how much Diana's heritage still runs through the blood of the House of Windsor. Charlotte was referred to as Diana's echo from birth, not just because of her stunning resemblance, the same inquiring eyes, the same delicate tilt of the head, but also because of her character. William and Kate have made it clear to all 3 of their children that Diana was more than simply a royal symbol. She was also a mother, a lady who campaigned for compassion, endured in silence, and eventually dared to speak the truth. Diana has long been publicly discussed at home, according to family sources. Her photographs adorn the corridors of Adelaide Cottage. Her name is whispered in bedtime stories. Charlotte's birthdays are celebrated with stories about a grandmother who loved ballet, the rain, and delivered embraces that made people weep. Diana is regarded as a historical figure by the general public. However, Charlotte considers her family. It's hardly surprising, therefore, that Charlotte, growing up in a family that refuses to forget the past, would absorb some facts. This includes the implicit conflict between Diana's memories and Camilla's reality. Charlotte's statement did not come out of nowhere. Those words sprang from a place where love, grief, and loyalty all intertwine. Kate has always considered that crossing hallowed territory. She has spent years preserving Diana's memory, supporting her organizations, visiting issues Diana previously championed, and even paying subtle respect to her dress choices. Most crucially, Kate has done something Diana was never fully permitted to do: raise her children for love rather than obligation. That includes the right to express their feelings. According to a family source, Charlotte has a strong sense of right and wrong. She is watchful, and she knows more than people give her credit for. It's easy to envision Charlotte overhearing her parents discussing the royal family's intricate relationships, or witnessing her mother become anxious around some people. Alternatively, consider the subtle but constant difference between how the public perceives Diana and Camilla's attempts to rewrite that story. These are not the types of truths that youngsters should be taught. They feel them, they absorb them, and now they are speaking to them. Diana may be gone, but she is far from forgotten. Charlotte's words capture her warmth, anguish, and fire. And in that single phrase, Charlotte not only exposed a royal schism, but also gave voice to the lady the palace has been attempting to leave behind for years. But Diana's shadow persists, and if the monarchy believed it could outlast Diana's legacy, they misjudged the one thing she never had: a grandchild prepared to speak up when others would not. Princess Diana's shadow hovered over Prince Charles's life from the moment Camilla Parker Bowles reappeared in public. Even after Diana's sad death, Camilla couldn't shed the reputation of being the other woman. Despite several professionally produced images and courteous magazine interviews, the British people never really embraced her. And beyond the palace's gates, that rejection slowly festered into a lengthy, bitter bitterness. The animosity grew greater with every mention of Diana, particularly since her legend continued to live on. Camilla's journey to the crown was never intended to be straightforward, but rather managed. When Catherine and Charles eventually married in 2005, the official line was that she would never be named queen. She would become princess consort, which lessened the pain to Diana's memories. That pledge, of course, would subsequently be discreetly withdrawn, and by the time Queen Elizabeth died, the headlines were clear. Camilla would be proclaimed queen. Not consort or companion, but simply queen. Many members of the public felt betrayed. Camilla felt vindicated. However, there was disagreement among the family. William, while polite in public, was believed to be uneasy about the title. Kate maintained her composure but declined to endorse the action. The public recognized the younger royals' restrained admiration for Camilla. As one source put it, they tolerate her, nothing more. Camilla felt that no matter how many titles she got, she would never be able to match Diana's memory. Diana was adored. Diana was mourned. People on the streets were still weeping for Diana. And worst of all, Diana had become eternal. Her tale remained frozen in time, unaffected by controversy or age, whereas Camilla was forced to live in the comparison day after day. According to palace insiders, Camilla became more annoyed whenever Diana's name appeared in public speeches or charity functions. She allegedly opposed Charles from allowing the sons to speak at Diana's memorial. She allegedly objected to Kate receiving the title of Princess of Wales back, and she was believed to have privately mocked Diana videos that aired too close to coronation season. Camilla was hurt by Diana's link with the monarchy's future generations, including William, Kate, and Charlotte. Seeing Diana's history reflected in Charlotte's face, elegance, and gaze served as a daily reminder that Camilla was never meant to wear the throne. She was a backup plan. A lady who waited and won, not by earning. And now, Diana's granddaughter had spoken. Camilla never liked my mum. 7 words that threatened to undo decades of image control and quiet. Behind closed doors, Camilla's reaction was explosive. One royal source stated that she was shaking with rage when the leak went public. Another claimed she snapped at aides, wanting to know why the matter wasn't being resolved sooner. What genuinely worried her was not the press, but the idea that she would never be able to escape Diana's ghost. Not in public, not in the palace, and not even in the hearts of future generations. Camilla has always known the truth. She was never expected to become queen, and Charlotte's remarks had just reminded everyone. Kate Middleton has always been the epitome of royal elegance, measured, poised, and almost unnervingly calm under pressure. For years, she played the long game, tolerating subtle slights, backroom politics, and hidden power battles with the grace that made her the crown's most precious asset. But each woman has a line. Kate's quiet was ultimately broken when Princess Charlotte's whispered truth, "Camilla never liked my mum," made worldwide headlines. According to palace insiders, Kate was caught off guard. She hadn't planned for it, hadn't practiced it, and didn't want her children pulled into the emotional wreckage of the royal past. And the media got wind of them. There was no turning back. At first, Kate turned inward. She removed Charlotte from booked appearances, turned off media queries, and canceled 2 forthcoming engagements. To the public, it appeared to be a peaceful week. Behind the palace walls, there was a storm. Kate allegedly marched into a closed-door meeting with King Charles the following day. There are no cameras, no press. It was only her father-in-law, and a wall of tension that had been rising between them for years. One senior advisor who watched the discussion described Kate's message as cutting, clear, and delivered with a coolness that shook everyone in the room. "Don't you dare rewrite my children's story." It was no longer just about Camilla. It was about legacy, about the truth, concerning the risky rewriting of Diana's past for the purpose of royal image management. Kate, who had spent years teaching her children to adore their grandmother, a woman they had never met but felt profoundly for, wasn't going to let Camilla's discomfort overshadow that. Not now, not ever. In the days after the comment, the royal PR machine allegedly pushed for Kate to issue a gentle statement, something along the lines of, "Children say things they don't fully understand." However, Kate refused. She refused to mute her daughter. Not for procedure, not for optics, certainly not for Camilla. Behind the scenes, a change occurred. Kate was no longer the devoted wife who smiled on the balcony. She had transformed into something altogether different, a watchful mother, a silent fighter, and, as one insider described it, the only person in the firm who truly carries Diana's torch. The message was clear. Diana's legacy was not a public relations blunder. It was family, it was genuine, and it was sacrosanct. According to those close to Kate, the entire incident hardened her. While she did not go on offense, she did withdraw tactically. Public activities got cooler and less frequent. Interactions with Camilla were limited. Most importantly, she began devoting more time to juvenile mental health work, gently linking it to emotional honesty, truth-speaking, and breaking patterns of silence. There was also increasing friction between her and the palace press office. Kate, known for meticulously crafting her image, began accepting fewer remarks and demanding greater control over how her children were depicted in the media. In one case, she allegedly vetoed a photo release with Camilla and Charlotte in the same frame. What's the reason? It sends the wrong message. Kate maintained her composure in front of everyone. However, those who knew her well noticed something else simmering under the surface. This was more than simply a remark. It involved a mother painting a line on the sand. With calm rage, Kate made it known to the entire institution, "You can attempt to rewrite the past, but you will not touch my children's reality." For most of his adult life, Prince William has walked a fine line between his duty to the crown and his loyalty to his late mother, wife, and children. In public, he's always kept his emotions under control. Behind the scenes, he's been the family's silent bridge, a peacekeeper who can handle royal politics without being consumed by them. However, when his daughter's innocent comments sparked a tempest that spread across the kingdom, the balancing act began to disintegrate, and for the first time, William stopped walking the line and selected a side. It was not Charles. According to sources, William fell silent shortly after Charlotte's statement was made public, not in rage, but in cold calculation. He knew the palace would try to brush it under the carpet. He also realized that any attempt to undermine Charlotte would backfire horribly, perhaps injuring his daughter emotionally. So, rather than acting publicly, William withdrew secretly. However, his actions spoke loudly. Just days after the scandal surfaced, the palace scheduled a special family weekend in Balmoral, a demonstration of togetherness maybe, an opportunity to make course corrections in front of the cameras. But William and Kate did not go. The message was modest but clear. "We will not pretend to be someone we are not." Insiders at the palace stated that Charles was greatly saddened by the no-show. He had thought William would intervene, calming Kate and resolving the conflict with Camilla. But Charles didn't realize, or perhaps refused to recognize, that William's tolerance had run out, not simply with the institution, but with his father's decades-long intent on maintaining Camilla's public image at whatever cost. William had spent his whole childhood seeing Camilla's transformation from mistress to stepmother, and finally queen. And while he kept his public utterances courteous, those closest to him always understood where his heart was. He adored his mother. He respected the lady who had reared him, and he would not let history be changed simply because the monarchy found it uncomfortable. With his kid in the center of it all, the decision became cruelly clear. Charlotte's remarks, although harmless, hit to the core of a wound William had spent years attempting to heal. And the thought that she too could be drawn into the same twisted web of lies, image, and silence, it was too much. According to insiders, William visited privately with Charles days later, and the meeting was not friendly. William allegedly informed his father, "I will not ask her to apologize for telling the truth." The truth was not simply about Camilla's emotions for Diana. It concerned everything the monarchy had attempted to repress: the pain, the treachery, the cost of quiet. Kate stood behind him wholeheartedly. The two were united, not only as parents, but also as guardians of Diana's legacy. They began narrowing the circle around their children, adjusting schedules, restricting encounters with Camilla, and discreetly reaffirming long overdue boundaries. For William, this was not a revolt, it was a revelation. A moment of clarity had been awaited for years. He wasn't simply Diana's son, he was now a father, and his responsibility was not only to the crown, but to the truth, to his family, and to the young child who unintentionally reminded the world that the past is still relevant. William's choice of Charlotte did more than simply reject Charles's silence. He decided to commemorate Diana. In doing so, he may have permanently altered the future of the monarchy. It was only one sentence. A youngster said 7 hushed words, but those words, "Camilla never liked my mom," echoed decades of pain, treachery, and the silencing of a woman whose death the world never forgot. Princess Charlotte did not yell, accuse, or want to cause trouble. She just revealed the reality, which had been carefully concealed under layers of procedure, titles, and tradition. And somehow, this increased its potency, because Charlotte's actions, whether deliberate or not, shattered the carefully built narrative that the palace had spent years defending. Camilla has undergone rebranding, the gradual fading of Diana's name in official circles, the subtle push to move on, forget, and rewrite. Everything came crumbling down with a single innocent statement. Perhaps the monarchs didn't see this coming. Not a controversy sparked by a memoir or a media leak engineered by a dissatisfied royal, but a reckoning provoked by a youngster who still sees the world in black and white, where kindness is valued, moms are revered, and bad is simply wrong. At that point, Charlotte became more than just a future king's daughter. She turned into a mirror. Not only does it reflect Diana's legacy, but also the institution's ongoing duplicity. Her comments didn't simply reveal Camilla, they revived the debate of whose truth the monarchy is based on, something the royal family has avoided for decades. Kate stood beside her. William did too. And in doing so, they've highlighted something the palace should be more concerned about than any journalistic scandal. A rising generation refuses to be silenced. Diana sought to be heard in a system that penalized her for speaking. Charlotte talked fearlessly because she was nurtured by people who remembered. And that, more than anything, is how Diana triumphs. Not with vengeance, not through rebellion, but with a heritage that powerful it communicates via the tiniest voice in the room and leaves a kingdom eternally altered.